Okay guys, so welcome to my video. I'm gonna be doing a Kiss album tiers list, as you can probably tell from the title. I'm not gonna waste too much time and start off with the first. I'm just gonna do them in chronological order, if I still remember it right. Okay, so the first album, 1974. Uh, I'd go in solid S or A. I go with an S tier. I don't know. It might be. I might be the only one who has this opinion. A lot of people overlook this album. They always go with, oh, Alive 2 or Alive 1 is when Kiss really broke out. I thought they were great from the get-go. The original album has so many hits that they still play live, and the sound was amazing as well. And then you had like odd song, like more, I guess you could say odd songs like Black Diamond. They were more like they were different from the rest. They were a little slower paced and with different tempos, and great album overall. Great start. Their second album, if I remember correctly, was Hotter Than Hell, which I'm gonna put in the B tier. There are some good songs on there. There are also not so good songs on there. It's just like it's a bit in the middle. I like what's it called? Watching You is great. Mainline is good. Parasite, great riff, underrated. What I didn't like about the album was its production, though. I don't know what it was. Uh, and before anyone comments, well, it was the early '70s, but it's really the follow up to their first album, which sounded perfectly fine in the mix. But this just sounds like it was, I don't know, like it was recorded with cheaper equipment than the first one. I don't know. Like, don't know what it is. I'm not an audio expert. But anyways, I don't know. I think it could have been an A tier at least if the production was good, but it just sounds so dated. Like the sound sounds so bad. I don't know. Okay, next. Let's not waste too much time here. Next, I might make some mistakes, and like when it comes to chronological order, but I believe it was Dress to Kill. I don't know. I'd give it a C tier. Wasn't that great of an album. The only song, like the only two songs I really like from there are Rock and Roll on All Night and She. And even Rock and Roll All Night is kind of, I don't know, overplayed, but it's really popular, obviously. Um, it's like, yeah, it's like Kiss's version of Smells Like Teen Spirit or Jump or whatever. Okay, next album. I believe it was Rock and Roll Over. I put it in a B tier as well, mainly due to some songs on there are just not my taste. I really only enjoyed Doctor Love and Mr. Speed, and the rest was just kind of I don't know. I can listen to it. It's fine, but you won't find any of those songs in my playlist except for Mr. Speed and Calling Doctor Love. Maybe Christine. Wait, no, Christine 16 was another album. I'm sorry, I'm retarded. Okay, next. Next in line was, believe, Destroyer or Love Gun. No, it was first. There was. Wait, I'm getting. Let me do a little research here. And what? Give me the fucking year. When did 1977? Okay, 1977, and no, I think it came before Destroyer, right? It came before. Oh no, Destroyer came first. Okay, so Destroyer, I'd give it. Hmm. Gosh, such a difficult choice here. Let's give Destroyer an A, because I believe there are more songs on there that I actually enjoy compared to the rest. I still don't think it's an S tier album because there are many throwaway songs like What's it called? My Sweet Pain, I believe. Uh, then you had like the King of the Nighttime World was all right. Great Expectations was, okay. It's not something you listen to on a daily basis. But then you had some great songs on there like Detroit Rock City, God of Thunder, one of my favorites. But yeah, I don't think the album is great from beginning to the end, so that's why it's not getting an S tier, in my opinion. So next in line, then I believe we had. Oh yeah, we had Love Gun. I'm stupid. I just like literally looked it up. Love Gun, I'd also give it an A tier. Same story there. There are some great songs on it. There are also some throwaway songs on it that I would just like never put in my playlist. But songs like, well, Love Gun, Shock Me. Uh, there are some other ones on there that I like. I forgot the names from the top of my head. But all in all, decent album. Definitely recommend it. Everything from the S and the A tier you should listen to. Uh, then, if you're not familiar with Kiss, obviously, the then let's see, we had, I believe it was Dynasty, right? Yeah, Dynasty. So Dynasty. No, wait, the solo albums. I forgot about the solo albums. So they basically all came out at around the same time period, so it doesn't matter. The Ace Frehley one, I'm gonna give it a B tier. There's some one or two good songs on there, maybe three. The rest is kind of eh. But I think it's definitely the best out of these solo albums. The rest is just kind of like the Paul Stanley one. I'm sorry. I'm gonna give you a D rating. Honestly, don't care for it. Gene Simmons a C. Peter Criss also a D. Didn't really care for it. I don't know. It was hard not to skip the songs when listening when listening to it for the first time. Okay, what's next? I think it was Unmasked, right? Unmasked. Yeah, Unmasked, and then came The Elder, I believe. Yeah. Unmasked. It's kind of a controversial one, but honestly, I will give it a B. Why? It was soft. Don't get me wrong. There were a lot of like pop tunes on it. Um, and I messed up the order. I think Dynasty came first, but whatever. My point is, there were a lot of like poppy tunes on it. Nothing really heavy. It was kind of weak, and also the fact they called it Unmasked just kind of like teased the audience into thinking that, oh, they're gonna take the makeup off, and then it's just the cover art where they take masks off and they're still wearing their makeup. Whatever. I think they were just kind of throwing around the idea of taking off the makeup, but they still like didn't feel that it was the right time, I guess, to do so. But that being said, there were some poppy songs on there, but I like Torpedo Girl. I believe that's a good song. I still have it in my playlist. I don't know. I like it very much. There's some other songs on there that are good as well. Not a great album, but a decent one. Like I'd rather listen to that than any of those in the C or D tier, in my opinion. Okay. While I'm being harsh on Dress to Kill, I don't know, but it's just my taste. Whatever. So we skipped Dynasty, so let's get to Dynasty. Dynasty, honestly, uh, you're gonna hate me for it, but I'm gonna give it an S tier. Dyn- I'm gonna get so much hate probably. That sounded cringe. What I meant was people disagreeing with me. But Dynasty was also the first album I picked up from Kiss when I was 9 years old. So maybe it has to do something with emotional attachment, like nostalgia. But it's just not that. Like I listened to it recently, I was like, wow, these two, like even the B side songs, so to speak, like the throwaway songs, they were good. Like Magic Touch, Hard Times, even X-Ray Eyes. I like it, and yeah, and then obviously the I Was Made for Loving You, which is that's the Smells Like Teen Spirit from Kiss. That's the one everyone knows, even the non-Kiss and like non-rock fans in general. They know that song. Um, they got a lot of critique because the song in particular, I Was Made for Loving You, sounded very much disco esque. So they were like afraid that Kiss was giving up their rock and roll sound for something more disco vibe, like poppy vibe, I guess. I don't know. But it was like you had 2000 men. Even if it's a cover, it's really great. Like Ace's voice fits it perfectly. Dirty Livin', one of my favorite Peter Criss songs, really underrated one. Uh, yeah, so that's why I was getting an S tier. Fight me. Next up, we have The Elder. The Elder, honestly, it's just not gonna cut it for me. I'm gonna give that a no. I'm gonna give it a D. Yeah, it's really up and down with Kiss. Like, they put out a great album, then they put out a really shitty one, then they put out a mid, and then there are some gems. They have a lot of albums. There are some gems in there, but you have to find them. But Unmasked was just what am I saying? Elder was a really weird album. They tried changing their sound so drastically, and I believe I heard it in Paul Stanley's biography, autobiography, that they were trying to get serious with the sound and showing everyone that Kiss was just more than rock and roll, but they were actual musicians, and it backfired pretty bad. It was a poor attempt at, I don't know, opera, I guess. It sounds really weird. And maybe it's for some people they like it. For me personally, I think other than A World Without Heroes, it's not worth listening to me. And even A World Without Heroes, even the live unplugged version, gets my preference, so to speak. But yeah, let's move on to one of my favorite Kiss albums. So automatically S tier, Creatures of the Night. It was, man, they learned their lesson from The Elder and Unmasked and whatnot. They were like, okay, fuck it, let's go into heavy metal. I mean, I guess, I don't know if it's actually heavy metal, but it was, compared to their other albums, it did sound like heavy metal and it was good. That being said, I forgot to mention they fired Peter Criss. I guess it was before the making of The Elder, if I'm not mistaken. And it was pretty much absent during the Unmasked recordings. Like, uh, they thought he was, I guess, not good enough anymore. I don't know. I don't want to get it. I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get into it. You can look it up for yourself. But what I'm getting at here is Creatures of the Night was also the time they let Ace Frehley go, or he left the band. I'm sorry, he left on his own terms. Um, but actually, so Ace Frehley never played a note on the album. He didn't write any of the songs, but he was still advertised on the cover, as you can see. And that was because Paul and Gene were kind of too afraid that fans would start losing fans if they like replace two members. They already replaced one, Peter Criss, with Eric Carr, and then also the guitar player, would be a little too. They thought it might be too harsh for the fans to handle. But anyways, Creatures of the Night, excellent album, really. Like, what I love the most about this is the drum sound. Like, you can hear that they let Eric Carr do his thing. Like, he was kind of constrained on The Elder, and like, imagine you join the band and you think, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm gonna bring some metal drumming to this band, and then you have to make the Elder like your first album. But the drums sound amazing. I heard they use some kind of like elevator shaft to record the drums. I don't know. They sound good. The band in itself just sounds amazing. I don't know what else is there to say. I love every song on it, maybe except for one or two. But like Danger is the one I usually skip. I don't know. I get a feeling that I don't like a lot of Paul Stanley songs in general for some reason. I don't know why that is. Gene Simmons for the win. But yeah, let's move on because we're wasting a lot of time here on one album, but it kind of deserved it. Ironically, it was, I think at that time, their worst selling album, and it really tanked. And like a lot of the arenas that they were booked to play were more than half empty sometimes. So yeah, it was a really heavy time period for Kiss, even though they released one of their best albums ever. But I think the damage was just done with the with Unmasked and the Elder. Like people stopped caring, even though it was good music. But luckily, they made a great comeback with Lick It Up, which I'd put an A tier. Great album, although not as good as Creatures of the Night, in my opinion. It sounds a little more polished than Creatures of the Night, so like more catchy tunes like Lick It Up and I forgot I forgot which one. But I like Young and Wasted. Um, Feels Like a Glove, one of my favorite Kiss songs, a really underrated one. I wish they play it live more often. Um, Exciter, also a great song. I just love Vinny's guitar playing on this record. He did play on Creatures of the Night as well, but it wasn't everything. Like I heard they hired other guitar players as well to do some songs. But yeah, overall great album. What's keeping me from putting this in S tier is, like I said before, the more polished sound. Compared to Creatures of the Night, it felt like, yeah, they were like really trying to ride the glam metal bandwagon at this time, but I'd say they adapted pretty well. Yeah, let's move on to Animalize. Animalize, I'd give it a solid B tier. It's a good record, but a lot of throwaway songs. And that's when they had. I forgot his name, man. I'm so stupid. Mark St. John. They let Vinnie Vincent go. They got Mark St. John. Great guitar playing. But although, there are a lot of throwaway songs, and I read that at this time Gene Simmons was more busy doing other stuff, like getting acting roles and whatnot, than making songs for the record. And Paul was kind of pissed off because he had to do a lot on his own. And yeah, so like the songs, like Gene's songs on this record are were kind of quickly put together, so to speak, considering Gene was exploring other avenues. Okay, let's move on to Asylum, first album with Bruce Kulick, which, I don't know, there are some good songs on there. Like I said before, not. I mean, I didn't say. I kind of did say it before with other records, but the same goes here. There are a couple of good songs on there, but the rest is just kind of, you know. Like King of the Mountain is pretty good. Then you had Tears Are Falling, also pretty good. And there was another one, I believe. I don't know, can't remember. Next, I believe it was Crazy Nights. That gets a D tier from me. I mean, at this point, they just went from heavy metal back to fucking they were riding the glam metal bandwagon so well that they really copied the progression that was going on at the time. Like the early 80s was the start of like heavier glam metal bands, like Motley Crue putting out Shout at the Devil. Um, you had Van Halen doing their stuff, although they weren't really metal, but you get my point. But then later, in the late 80s, you had all these bands who became really soft, like they were all trying to write ballads and stuff, and just poppy, corny stuff, like Def Leppard and I'm Sorry and Poison, and they went along with it. And I don't know, just like other than Crazy Nights, there isn't really a good song on there, in my opinion. Uh, Next, we had Hot in the Shade. Um, I think Forever, the song Forever is just kind of, and Little Caesars, because it was like the first Eric Carr tune. That's that's what's keeping me from putting it in D tier. But yeah, same story there. Didn't really like it. There weren't really any good songs on there except for those I just mentioned. Next, we go to Revenge, which was kind of a shift back into heavy metal, and the first record in a long time without Eric Carr. He sadly was suffering from an illness and passed away after, I believe, after the making of this record. I don't quote me on that, but anyways, he wasn't able to record with Kiss. So yeah, they got I believe it was Eric Singer, who's currently still the drummer in the band. But yeah, overall, good record. Um, some throwaway songs on there, but I love Unholy. Unholy is an underrated song. Like the opening riff is so great. Then you have Domino. Then you have Spit, which is also really underrated in my opinion. But then the rest is just kind of like hit or miss. So it's just kind of, it's acceptable, but it's not something I would listen to on a daily basis. But the those other songs I just mentioned are really great. Like, oh, Take It Off. That song sucked, like really big time. But I love that they kind of tried going back into a more heavier music style here. Then we had this. This. Yeah, just I don't want to say much about this album. It was Kiss again, riding the bandwagon of glam metal dying completely and the shift into grunge music. And like even Paul Stanley said, like I actually don't want to do this because I don't get grunge. I can't sing about depressive stuff when my life isn't depressing. But yeah, they still were kind of forced to do it anyways by management and I guess by Gene Simmons, who thought it was a good idea. But yeah, it's just no, just not a good album. And there's not one song I like on there. Next, we had the return of the original four in the band. So Ace and Peter's return. Yeah, it's still, I I don't know. I didn't really like this record. I'm gonna give it a D. Yes, some people are gonna lose their shit when they see this, but there's not one song I love on here. I'm really sorry. A lot of people seem to like Psycho Circus. I think it's just corny as hell. And apparently, Ace and Peter barely played on the record. Um, they have actually very little to do with making this record, but they were still advertised as being on the record because, yeah, money. And they were planning a big reunion tour, so yeah, making it look like they made a they made another album with these two was good promotional like advertisement for the tour, I guess. Okay, next, Sonic Boom, man. Sonic Boom. Uh, yeah, as well. D tier. Don't really like it. It's although I'm considering putting it in C tier. Modern Day Delilah is kind of okay, but then the rest is just meh at best. So yeah. Same goes with Monster. Yeah, sorry, not a fan. They lost like also with after they no, not after, actually during the making of Sonic Boom. From Sonic Boom on, Paul Stanley started using auto-tuned vocals, which is just, man, I'm not even gonna get into it, but it just sucks. I mean, at this point, why even make an album, right? My opinion. Same with Monster. Well, what I also really despise about Sonic Boom is that they, for some reason, they didn't have the rights anymore to a lot of their older hit songs. So what they did was they decided to re-record them to as quote unquote covers, so they could still like be able to play them live and whatnot. I don't know, but it completely sucked. They used auto tune for "I Was Made for Loving You," and it just sounds horrible. I don't believe there's one human being who prefers those recorded like covers of the originals above the originals. I don't think so. And the thing that pisses me off is they're like some people or like sometimes when you look up the song on some websites or the first thing that pops up is those fucking covers. Like no, piss off. Okay, so guys, I hope you won't be too mad at me for these opinions. But yeah, they might change in the future. Who knows? Maybe I should give the at least the C tier albums another shot, uh, and maybe my opinions will improve on them. So yeah, guys, have a great have a great one, and we'll see each other in the next shit post. Bye bye.